So I think most of you know our lay leader, Randy, is here, and our new council chair, Marcy. They'll be leading most of the meetings here. So if you can get your booklet and get ready, we'll get started in a minute. And if you need to stretch, please do so. So before we start, there are a lot of reports in this booklet. I think you will agree with me that you don't want to read everything here, right? So we will highlight some of the ministry that we have done in 2025, and we'll be also presenting some of the new things that will be happening in 2026. So I'll turn it over to Randy now.
Good morning. Let us open in prayer. Gracious and holy God, we gather today in your name, thankful for the privilege of being in this congregation. We invite your Holy Spirit to move freely among us, filling this place in our hearts with your wisdom, peace, and grace. We ask for the humility to follow the way of Jesus in all that we do and say. Empower us to be your hands, feet, and voice in this community. Help us to discuss, plan, discern, and make decisions that make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of this world. We ask all these things in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Marcy Rockwell, and as of January 1st, I am now the church council chair. And so I have the honor. As such, I have the honor of being up here this morning and being able to share and celebrate with you all the wonderful things that our church did in 2025. So I'm a numbers girl. I love data. I feel like numbers are very meaningful and powerful. And so I have a bunch that I want to share with you guys today that just demonstrates the impact that our church has had. And let me tell you, here at the end, we do have some very powerful numbers because you will find out just how many meatballs Lydia and her spaghetti dinner crew have served over the course of a season. It's a big number, okay? So keep you all in suspense there. So I just don't want to throw a bunch of numbers at you guys throughout this, so we're going to do a little interactive activity, and that's what these strips of paper are for. So if you are at the end of your pew, you guys are going to be the keeper of the strips. And don't worry, it's not nothing difficult or elaborate. When you're queued, you're going to be passing strips down to people in your pew. So you'll see as we go along what that's going to look like, okay? So the first thing I want us to celebrate is our worship and our membership. So we have, oops, go back one, Randy. Go back one. There we go. So we have 709 official members in our church. I think that's something to celebrate. That's a really big number. And this year alone, we inducted 19 new members to our church family. 5 of those are confirmands. We had 5 teenagers who went through the year-long course with Sue Graham, learned about Christianity, learned what it meant to be United Methodist, deepened their faith, and then joined us as mature teenagers as members of the church. We also had 5 baptisms. So we had 5 young children baptized. Every week we have about 128 people on average in person for worship. We have about 14 via Zoom and 24 via YouTube Live. And I think that's a blessing that we have the opportunity to be able to put these worship services online. Because so many times we may be on vacation, we might be ill, but we can still join and worship with our church family. So for our first strip of paper, if you were a new member this year, if you were inducted as a new member of our church, or if you had a child baptized, I want you to take a strip of paper and just hold on to it. Okay? We're going to do something with it at the end. So the next thing I want us to celebrate is our Christian Service Committee. They have been busy this year. Look at some of these numbers. So our Covenant to Care during our August school supply drive, Deb collected 46 prepared backpacks for children in need. And with that, we had lots of school supplies. We were able to donate 3 big bins of school supplies to a local elementary school in need. At Thanksgiving, we had 20 full Thanksgiving dinner boxes. And with those, they all had a $25 gift card to a local grocery store so they could buy other things that they need. At Christmas time, we all collected 95 gifts for children. And all those children, their families also received a family activity packet, too, for them to do together. Merton House had almost 1,800 bag lunches that they put together this year. That's a lot. And the Bridgeport Rescue Mission, we donated almost 2,400 boxes of cereal in 2025. Those are some big numbers, right? So, before we move on to the next slide, if you donated to prepare a school backpack, if you donated to a child in need this Christmas through Covenant to Care, if you donated for the Thanksgiving dinners, or if you helped volunteer putting those boxes of cereal together, putting the bagged sandwiches together for the Merton House, I want you guys to take a strip of paper and hold on to that. And even, hey, if you guys want to, you could take one for each thing. If you donated to, you could have 5 strips of paper, for this one. It's not a contest, I should add. I don't have any prizes for anybody at the end, so. Go ahead, Randy. So United Women in Faith. This is another very busy organization. They have 101 members, and I don't know if you all knew this, but the United Women in Faith, they support over 20 local missions. I think that is just phenomenal. I didn't know that until I started putting together some numbers. There were 50 attendees at the women's retreat, which was wonderful. We're going to have another one here in this April, so if you're a woman, come on over to the women's retreat. We're going to have a good time. It was a great time last year. They collected 22 hat and mitten sets here this winter, 55 single hats, and 59 mitten pairs, and then 2 scarves for the Geraldine Johnson School in Bridgeport. I think that's something to celebrate. So if you are a member of United Women in Faith, if you donated a hat, a mitten, or a scarf, if you attended the women's retreat, I want you to take a strip of paper. Or more, if you did more. I'm not going to limit y'all. I do have more if you guys need some. Our children's and youth ministry. So on average, we have about 16 children on average every Sunday. And that fluctuates. Over the summer, the numbers go down, maybe to around 8. We've had upwards of 25 Port Madison in one Sunday before. That's a great problem to have when you have all these kids coming on a Sunday. And we do have 40 registered overall that could attend. The children's ministry team, we did 7 supplemental activities after church throughout this past year. So Easter egg hunt, game night, prayer rocks. For the youth, we have 13 youth members, And Chrissy, oh my gosh, she was busy because she had 49 meetings with her youth group last year. That's a lot. For Vacation Bible School, our theme this past year was road trip, on the go with God. It was a really cute car trip, family vacation kind of theme. We had 27 children in attendance on average each evening, and we had 39 kids who registered overall. And then we had 19 adult volunteers. It was a great number. So, sorry, forgot the strips of paper. If you guys, if you volunteered with Vacation Bible School, if you sent a child to Vacation Bible School, if you came to any of our children's ministry events, grab a strip of paper, okay? Inasmuch Day, I know Randy's going to be talking more about Inasmuch Day later. He's got a lot of great information to share with you guys. But this was our first year for Inasmuch Day, and I think it's such a blessing that for it being our first year, we had 133 volunteers in our church complete 11 projects. I think that's definitely something to celebrate. And we're just going to be building on that as the years go. So if you volunteered on Inasmuch Day, grab a strip of paper, okay? Binky Patrol. I went to Nancy for some of these numbers, and they totally blew me away because I had no idea about Binky Patrol, and you guys might not either. So Binky Patrol is where they come together and they put together the fleece blankets. But I had no idea that they have 70 to 80 people every event come and put together these blankets. That just blew me. It's just amazing. That blew me out of the water. So they had 6 blanket making events in 2025, and they make about 80 to 100 blankets every session. And so, Nancy, these get donated to children in hospitals, or correct? Yeah. Head Start. And so what a wonderful ministry that we have, that we can house that here in our church and create those blankets. And for Inasmuch Day, one of the 11 projects was a Binky Patrol project where they put together 28 Binky and book packs. So if you guys have donated, either to Binky Patrol in funds or in fleece, or if you have come and you have helped put together those blankets, or if you helped with that project for Inasmuch Day, I want you guys to take a strip of paper. So ASP, Appalachian Service Project. We have 40 years of ASP involvement with our church. I think that is something to celebrate. 40 years. So we had 12 high school youth volunteers this past year and 10 adult volunteers. I think that's great. If you were on ASP, sorry, I keep forgetting to cue you guys. If you volunteered for Appalachian Service Project this year, if you went on that trip, take a strip of paper. Our neighborhood breakfast at Stratford. This is another great ministry that really, we really started this year. We joined forces with Stratford. 25 people on her volunteer list from just our church that go down on Saturday mornings and help serve breakfast in the Stratford community at the Stratford NUMC. She has about 8 NUMC volunteers each breakfast. They've had 15 breakfasts in 2025, and I think it's a blessing that now, because we've joined forces with Stratford and we have so many volunteers, they were able to extend that, not just from 1 breakfast per month, but now to 2. So think about the number of people that we're able to serve in the Stratford community, especially knowing that there's 70 to 90 meals served every time we hold one of those breakfasts. I think those are some phenomenal, powerful numbers. So if you guys have donated to the breakfast, I know, so you have a box where we can donate things like cereal bars, coffees, pastries, things like that. If you've donated to the breakfast or if you've volunteered to go serve at the breakfast, take a strip of paper. Blueberry Festival. So this was our first year having the Blueberry Festival on Nichols campus. That was quite a delight. I had never attended a Blueberry Festival before it came here, and it was wonderful. I loved it. M estimated about 45 volunteers, and about 300 attendees came. They had 25 vendors. They sold 130 blueberry pies at the festival, and then 64 more after that. That's a lot of pies. That's a lot of blueberries. And then 360 muffins sold, and then more than 50 blueberry sundaes. So those were a lot of goodies that we had at our Blueberry Festival. And I can't wait to see what the numbers are like this year at this coming July's Blueberry Festival. So if you volunteered at the Blueberry Festival, if you attended the Blueberry Festival, grab a strip of paper. Our spaghetti suppers, and here's where the number comes for the meatballs. Okay, so this year they held 9 dinners this season. Lydia said that she has a pool of about 35 volunteers, and they have about 25 at each dinner. So that's a lot of people from our church that are making these spaghetti dinners a success. Her typical attendance is around 40 to 60 people, some from our church, some from the greater community. Some have been coming for so many years. And she texted me this morning. There was a spaghetti dinner last night, and she said that they had, what was it, about like almost 90 people. Like they had almost like 90 people at the dinner, I think over 100 at the concert. We had some really good numbers here. So I just wanted to add that in there too. They had over 120 at May's concert. That was the Beatles one. That was a hit. And then I love this fun little number. She said that they've served over 100 pounds of pasta in a season and 900 meatballs. Yeah. There was now we're probably at 1,000 meatballs after last night. So, we had 90 people, but 900 meatballs. So I think that's awesome. So if you have come to a spaghetti dinner or a concert, if you have volunteered at a spaghetti dinner or concert, grab a strip of paper. Okay. Our live nativity. This was our 3rd year. I think it was another success. I'm not biased or anything. We're estimating about over 250 attendees. It's always hard to keep track. Some people stay for both performances, which is always a blessing. We had over 35 volunteers. I had 35 on my spreadsheet, but I had more people show up the day of to help out. So we had more than 35. So if you attended our live nativity, if you supported us by attending, if you were a volunteer for our live nativity, grab a strip of paper. And this is the last thing, last but not least, and I just want to say too, even though this is the last one I want to talk about, there are so many things that our church has done that I can't even touch on because there's just so many of them. So I don't want to leave anything out that we have done. I know Randy's going to touch on some more here, and we've got some more stuff coming up in 2026. But the last thing I want to mention is the induction ceremony for DS Heather, and I didn't know she was going to be here today. That was a blessing. But I don't have any quantitative numbers to share with you, but I just want to share qualitatively. This was such an inspiring ceremony for me. I'd never been to one before. I'd never been to a service that was, multiple churches, multiple clergy together. So I really didn't know what to expect. But I left and I went home and I told my husband, who was home with my boys, so he couldn't come, but I told him, I was so inspired by the diversity that we have in the United Methodist Church and our clergy. Women and people from different races and ethnicities. It was so wonderful to see. That really stuck out to me. And I was just so inspired by it. And Bishop Bickerton, he gave a wonderful address, as did DS Heather. And our women's group put on a fabulous reception afterwards. This truly was a moment for our church to shine because, it was really the cherry on the cake that DS Heather, she started here. And it came full circle for her. She got to be inducted here, coming back to the sanctuary, being at the peak of her ministry and her career. This was just a really wonderful ceremony. So if you were blessed enough to be able to attend that ceremony back in October, I want you guys to grab a strip of paper. Okay? Oh, we need more. Hey, that's a good thing. We need more strips of paper. Yay. And like I said, this isn't a contest. I'm not counting anybody's strips of paper. But now, what I want you guys to do, I asked that some members of the children's ministry team to be my Vanna Whites this morning and help me out. So not the supply pool that you guys have the front of the pews here, but the ones that you actually collected, or earned, if you will. I want you to pass those and collect that stack for me towards the middle here. And my helpers, we're going to collect those, and we're going to do something with those while you guys watch a short little video that our communications team put together. Oh, we forgot a slide. The Christian service.
So there's another slide if you're not familiar with other things that were going on in Christian ministry.
That's a lot. So, I don't know, Brett, if you're able to play the video.
By the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people cry. Oh, who dwell in dark and sin, stars of night. I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I'm the Lord of snow and rain. I have borne my people's pain. I have wept for love of them. They turn away. I will break their hearts of stone. Give them hearts for love alone. I will speak my words to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. And I will go if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I will go when you lead me. Father, lead me. I will go. I will follow endlessly. Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go if you lead me. I will hold your people in my
Stuck. Yeah, can you help me staple the chain together?
So first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here and taking the time to stay. And I think we can all agree Marcy superbly highlighted our 2025 accomplishments and growth. And we absolutely need take the time to celebrate. We also need to take the time for people to understand what goes on in the church that many of you don't see on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but I would love to see anybody who could raise their hand that said they knew every one of the things that went on in the church this year. No. I'm involved in a lot of it, and even I am amazed when I find something else that's going on and the impact it's made on people's lives or the community.
So I just want to show you guys here.
Oh.
My thought was that I would make a paper chain out of all of your strips of paper, but look at how many strips of paper we have left over because we don't have enough hands to staple. That's a blessing right there. But I just want to show you guys the impact that our church has, because this is our church. This is probably maybe a fourth of what we've done this year. This is you guys. This is something to be proud of. But I'm going to do something now. This chain represented our church. What do you think each individual link was? It's you guys. It's you, individually. It's everything. I won't cut anymore. It's what you guys have contributed in terms of your time, your effort, your funds this year. And look at what happens when we don't have you. Our chain breaks, our church breaks. So I just want you guys to keep that in your mind as Randy and Pastor Albert go into what we have prepared for 2026. Think about what kind of links you guys are going to make this year, in 2026. And maybe even more importantly, I want you to think about how you are going to support others in their links here in the church. Because it was super easy for me to go through and just cut one piece of paper, but when we layer them up, this would be a lot harder for me to cut. So with that, Randy and Pastor Albert.
Thank you, Marcy.
So, Marcy, this is very moving. Thank you. Thank you for putting this together. Just think about all the people who have contributed, all different ministries. I am deeply, deeply moved. Thank you. For this to happen, there are people who had to coordinate this. So I think of a conductor, Conductor doesn't play any instrument, but put all things together and coordinate it. And Marcy is the 2026 council chair, but last year our council chair was Karen, and she has coordinated all this and make sure that things really go smoothly and there's no committee conflicts. She smooth things over. And she became the council chair in a time where it was very challenging for us. When it was very challenging times, she stepped up and she carried us through. So, Karen, we appreciate your leadership. Thank you. Thank you.
So we have celebrated 2025. I do want to take just a moment for a little history. For those who know me, I like to do history and change. This church, we've been honored to be a member of this church for 27 years now. Sometimes I feel like we're still new. When I talk to some people who said, yeah, I've been here for 60 years, you're a newcomer. When we came, the church was full, children all over the place, young couples, more mature individuals that I looked up to, and now I look in the mirror. But we've been on a roller coaster. We were a thriving church back then, and then we sort of went into decline a little bit. And then we went into survival mode for a while. We've come out of survival mode. We're growing. I do want to preface this, even though it was wonderful to see all the slide numbers, and I'm a numbers person too, it's not about how many numbers, how many people we have, how many events we do. It's more about what is our impact on ourselves, our church, and our community. So what I want to do is spend a few minutes just talking about our future, and I'm going to pull a little experience out from my Army days. I was in Europe when the general in charge was given the task of cutting in half the number of people, service members and family in a very short period of time. and he looked at his staff, and his staff said, how do we get this done? And one of his staff members looked at him and said, well, I hope we can get it done. And he came out with a statement that became a title of his book, which was, Hope is Not a Method. Okay, so we can have lots of hope, lots of vision, but if we don't have a methodology to it, it doesn't get done. So what we've been doing over the last couple years is came out with the church's vision. And we now know where we want to go. That's the vision. And what General Gordon said in his book about hope is not a method is he said, instead of standing here and trying to look out and trying to decide exactly what needs to be done, turn around, put yourself in the place where the vision has been accomplished. We are where we want to be. Then turn around and look backwards and say, what steps do we need to take to get there? And so over the last year or so, we've done a lot of visioning on where we want to be, what we want the church to be, through lots of discussions and groups meeting. And so what we wanted to talk about, Pastor Albert talked about, connections, impact. So what we want to do is not rest on our laurels for 2025. It was a great year. It's an amazing year. Lots of people engaged, more people stepping up to volunteer, and more people stepping forward with some ideas on how to reach the vision that we set for ourselves. So I just want to spend a few minutes and say, let's look at the 2025 accomplishments. Those are things we are currently doing. And say, they're wonderful the way we do it, but can we expand on what we're currently doing? And here's a couple examples, but definitely not all. This is just a limited number. For example, can we do more intergenerational activities? The children's ministry started that with some of the things, game night coming up. But can we look around ourselves and say, where are other opportunities where we have activities, missions, worship, where we can engage more than one generation? And outreach. We do outreach. We're getting much better at outreach, especially with new members. Can we be better? Can we, all of us who are sitting here today, make sure we look around and say, is that somebody I don't know? I wish I could look out here and say, I know every one of you and your name and something about you, but I don't. So that's my challenge, to get to know you more. Once I get back to where I'm fully mobile, I'm here, I'll be doing more of that. It helps after church, before church, but also if you get people to come to the coffee hour, we can spend some time to build those relationships. We have been really impactful on our community. I think many of you here today see the impact we've had that you didn't even know we had, because it's wonderful. When I was asked with Lori Birch about over a year ago, to start talking what ministries are done in the church, we both went about it independently, and I think I came up with 19, and she came up with 21, and I didn't know half of them. So it was really eye-opening for me. So we can continue to develop even greater community impact through expansion of our current ministries. And that will get us so far, but it won't get us, I don't think, to where we want to be. So what we want to do is really talk about what else should we be doing? And this group had put together called the Think Tank. And the think tank's mission is to think. What are some possibilities? What are some opportunities? And if you want to get involved in it, let Pastor Albert know. But the whole purpose of that is, I think, if I remember right, and I didn't write it down, if you had $3 million and weren't restricted with volunteers, what would you want to do? To open our mind to what are the possibilities. We when we were in survival mode, we thought only about how do we survive. And we're out of that. We're in the growth. And we need to talk about what else is out there that we hadn't thought about. Out of the think tank, Jen and Judy have come up with an idea on a counseling center. I'll probably be talked about more later. but it's an opportunity to open up the church to have a greater impact, not during worship. And as you notice, most of these things were not about worship. They were about extending God's love to the community and helping those around us. As it was mentioned last year, one of the ideas that came out first was Inasmuch Day. And Inasmuch Day, for those of you who remember, is where we try to get the entire congregation to engage in service activities on one day. Our hope was to have 70 to 90 volunteers, and we thought that was a stretch goal. As you saw, we had 133 people from within the church and outside that come together to do 13 projects. We can expand on that. And I don't mean just numbers. I mean, it'd be great to have more numbers. But one of the things we did start last year is we talked to other churches, and I spoke to the conference about what's called Inasmuch United, where just not one church, but multiple churches get together, either as one group or as each individual church is doing it, but picking a day where every church does it on the same day. Imagine the impact if we got 8 or 10 churches to do projects throughout the greater Bridgeport area. But the one I really like, and we are starting to do some of that, is called Ongoing Inasmuch. And that's where you come up with projects, and then they turn from just a one-day project into an ongoing project. We did some work at fed the veterans at Home of the Brave. And I've talked with Vince Santelli, the CEO, and we're looking for projects during the year, but again, we'll probably be going back to that to do another. Stern Village was one. Mosaic we talked to, they talked about doing something and maybe doing an ongoing Bible study. So out of the ministries that we're doing, we can expand those ministries if we are open up to opportunities. And lastly, and I think most importantly, is there's a huge amount of brain power out there in the congregation. So we don't think the ideas are limited to the think tank or the church council or to the minister, but it's really open to anybody in the congregation. And we've had a couple examples over the last 2 years where somebody came up with an idea, and instead of saying, well, I don't think anybody would like that, said, you know, I'm going to take it to somebody, take it to the church council leader, or take it to the pastor, and say, I have an idea. And those ideas can grow into ministries. They can grow into wonderful things. The idea of a live nativity came. It's something that somebody had done someplace else, and look at the wonderful ministry it's turned into. So we just ask that everybody keep an open mind, and don't be hesitant. And even if you can't come up with an idea, be willing to open your hearts and your time to participate, to engage. So I know we have a church vision, and I do a lot of work with visions for organizations. I came up with my own bold vision for the future for Nichols United Methodist Church. Continuous Christian and spiritual growth as individuals, families, and as a community. Significant community outreach, relationship building, and impact. Significant engagement of church members in Christian education, ministry, leadership, relationship and connection building, and supporting others. I just ask that you will think about this and engage in the coming year.
Thank you, Randy. So we are going to introduce some ideas that some of the people from the think tank came up with. This is not necessarily like done deal. It's a work in progress. And we want to introduce this not just to present it to you, but to stimulate you, for you to think about, you know what? I have a good idea as well. You know, I have a good idea. So if you can just turn to page 36, I think. there's a ministry plan proposal. So I want to invite anybody here, whether you're in think tank or not, to come up with a proposal. So you can think of you know what, it'll be great if we have this kind of ministry to make community impact through this church. You can write something up, and it's great if you can say, you know what, I'm going to work on this project, but even if it's something that you think is a great idea and wish somebody else will do it, I think that idea could be very helpful as well. So we want to generate as many ideas as possible. Even if we don't get it done this year, maybe we'll get it done in 7 years. We don't know. So if you can start thinking about ideas, and the key word here is synergy. It's not something that we need to recruit 50 volunteers to do it, but Binky Patrol is a very good example. There are people who are doing it out there, but by bringing it here, somehow we create a synergy. Even when we talk about the community counseling ministry, you'll hear from Jen and Judy shortly. We're trying to not really recruit 50 volunteers from the church, but we're trying to create a synergy where we become a kind of a hub for the community service, but we don't have to have 50 volunteers. So Jen and Judy, if you can just come forward and share about your counseling ministry idea. It'll be followed by Ella. She will be talking about the community cafe idea. Let's have you use a microphone. There are people who are listening in through Zoom and YouTube as well.
Okay. I'm Jen Herbeck, and I'm joined by my new friend Judy Doyle here. We have been very busy working as part of the think tank on a special initiative that really revolves around providing counseling to our community here at the church. Both Judy and I come from both having professional experiences in the field, personal experiences, as well as family members, and also I'd like to say that a good way to put it is that we have feelers into, more than feelers, but we have a good sense of what the needs are of the community when it comes to people in need. And the reality is that there is a lot of suffering going on around us with our neighbors, with our friends, with our family, and we have a real opportunity here, as Randy's spoken to and Pastor Albert's spoken to really reach out as a community and provide help and support. So that's where we came up with this counseling ministry, and both Judy and I were really talking about kind of what would that look like based on the infrastructure here at church, what limitations exist, what opportunities exist. Some of you might be familiar with SWOT analysis. We kind of did that on our own and talked about really what is it possible here that we can provide. And what we came up with was really providing counseling, but providing the space for the counseling to exist. So not taking on a responsibility for the church to provide something outside of its area of, its intended purpose, right? And really providing the space for people to come together and partnering with an organization to do so.
Right, and I think that the concept behind this is that there's so much undercurrent of people in different stages of life and different challenges that exist. We all come to church and everybody says hi and wonderful and good, but underneath, people are struggling, and there's struggle in the community as well. And providing an area and developing a partnership with a counseling center or with a counseling agency creates an environment where people in our community and in our church know it's okay to go get help. It's okay to go to a support group for when you're taking care of an elderly parent or a husband who's got issues, that a caregiver needs support. And to do it in an environment where it's your church and where you know that there'll be support, I think is an incredible gift. And that was kind of the impetus behind Jen and I talking about that. I mean, the two of us started talking, and it was like we went off. There are parts of us that need to pull back because this is an ongoing process. We have not established relationship yet, but we are doing the feelers to see if this is even viable. So it's a work in progress, but it was something that we saw as a need within our church community and within our community as a whole, and that it provides an environment that can be very supportive for people. And we all have struggles, but sometimes it's helpful to be able to talk to somebody about those struggles. And to do it in your own church, it can be a very positive thing. So that's kind of behind our idea. And the idea is kind of moving along. A little more than I planned, but yeah, it's moving. So
it's really, the only thing I would say is that it's really two parts, right? So one is really a focus on support groups, and that can be led by lay people, it can be led by a professional counselor. There are different options, but the immediate need that we see is to be able to provide support groups, definitely to caregivers. But we really see across the lifespan so many different ages
Absolutely.
and populations to be able to reach.
right, young parents struggling with kids, parents of teenagers, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. Yeah, and then adult children can be a whole issue. But as you go through your life stages, suddenly you realize the parts don't work in your body the way they used to. How do you talk to each other and come up with solutions as to how to make those pieces come together? And so some of it is support, but we also see it as some way of providing some education to people and getting the resources in for council of aging or family and children or people that have expertise in these areas that can come and do some educational pieces as well as actual counseling in a supportive group. So
that's part one is support groups, and then part two would be creating an office here where we have somebody who we've vetted partnership with an organization to bring an actual professional counselor in to make services available to people in our church and really beyond. And the reason for partnering with someone rather than doing it ourselves, again, is the church is not a counseling center, and it does not have an infrastructure necessarily to deal with the nuances of billing, insurance, credentialing, licensing, clinical supervision. So all of that, the idea would be to partner with an organization that provides all of that to the actual clinician or counselor in that space, and we're really providing the space in which to provide that service. So that would come off of us. And it also wouldn't be a financial hardship for the church to be able to do that. So that's really our counseling ministry.
Thank you. So I'm going to invite Ella to come up, and while she's coming up, I imagine that there are people who say, you know what, I want to be involved. That's really intriguing. So if you are one of them, please speak to Jen and Judy after the meeting. And some of you may be thinking, you know, especially practical-minded people, what about insurance? What about finance? Is there safe sanctuary issues? Those will be worked out. So we are still in the beginning stage, so those will be worked out throughout time, but those are very legitimate questions that we will address it. We just haven't really worked that out yet. So if you would like to speak to Jen and Judy, especially if you want to be a little bit more involved, if you have some counseling background, or if you are just in support of that whole support group ministry, please speak to them after our meeting. Now we turn to Ella for a community cafe idea.
Okay, hi. First of all, it's really been an honor to be part of this group, this think tank. It's been a lot of fun to spend $3 million. And he said, think big, you know. And so I came up with a crazy idea myself. It's a community cafe. It would operate on a pay-what-you-can model where all are invited to the table. Our staff mentors and trains students and young adults for job readiness across several areas. And that could be culinary and, I don't know, I'm too close or something. Culinary and food service, business, marketing, finance, and HR. This would be in partnership with state agencies, offer opportunities. Oh, that's why. Okay, I'll put it down here. Okay, thank you. Let's see, with state agencies, and also offer opportunities to train others who need job skills and help them find employment in our community. These students are exposed not only to adults with valuable life skills to teach, but also to the Christian values that we are within the community. Our customers of our community cafe are served with dignity and kindness, regardless of their ability to pay. It's a welcoming space where people are fed physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We can also use that space for fun activities for all ages and abilities, just to bring people together over a cup of coffee, a soup, you know, whatever. Food brings people together. Our cafe addresses food insecurity. I was not prepared for the research about the food insecurity situation in our greater Bridgeport area. 57% of people in the Bridgeport greater community area are food insecure, 57%. And job insecurity for our young people and those at risk are also needed to be served. 80% of people with disabilities experience chronic unemployment. Now, how they describe disabilities could be, someone put it this way, and I like to say it instead of disabilities, they say people with differing abilities. We have a lot of young people who are, you know, categorized as maybe neurodivergent on the autism spectrum. And there are a lot of resources with people with physical disabilities compared to those who have differing abilities. So I think we could really reach a lot of those people that may not have a space where they feel seen, heard, appreciated, wanted, needed. We all need community. We need resources, of course, to do something like this. I don't know if anyone's going to talk about the reach back and pull forward, but that was one of the sort of philosophies and the guiding principles of the think tank, was to reach back to those who have been sort of invisible, either because of their age, their ethnicity, whatever it is, and for us to recognize that they have potential, they have a gift, and we can pull them forward and say, hey, you know something that I don't know. Do you want to be part of this? And really bringing forward those people. So just a little bit about me, and I'm glad that Jen mentioned this because I hadn't thought about this part, but well, there's a lot to say about me, but the part that would be relevant to this would be that I lived in New Haven for about 12 years, and I lived in Westville, and I was part of a neighborhood leadership program. It's the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, and so I went through that program and graduated from that program, and I learned a lot about community and building community. And I found community to mean something very different to me when I moved here from Austin, Texas. Not Boston, Austin, Texas. And people, oh, I didn't know you're from Boston. Like, no, Austin, Texas. Oh, that explains your accent. But community here was hard. It was hard for me to find that here. It's just a different culture. And there are different cultures, as small as Connecticut is, I've noticed that there's a very different culture in New Haven than there is in Westport, than there is in Trumbull, now that I live in Trumbull for a while. Then it's really surprising to me. So I was really curious about that, and kind of boiled down to the same old thing, is that we need each other. Everyone is, and Pastor Albert said, wired for survival, connection, belonging, and the question of what do I want from God? But God's saying, what do you want? You know, what do you want? I thought, yes, that's awesome. I'm going to write that down and make it part of my thing. And just to let you know, there are people in Connecticut that are doing something similar to this. You may be familiar with the Next Chapter Books here in Trumbull. Fantastic place, bookstore. There are programs such as Elite in the public schools that are identifying children with differing abilities and then looking for places for them to come and get training and exposure to adults that have skills. They are thrilled at the thought that we might be able to do something like this here. So, as Pastor Albert said, think about it. Open your minds to, gosh, I didn't think about this, or I could do this, or I have an idea. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. But, you know, the resources that we'll need would be your ideas and input, your skills and the connections that you may already know. We need community partners. We need consultants to help form something like this, a board. It could be as small or as big as we make it as the future goes forward, but I think it's a great idea. So I would love to hear your ideas and join any of you that want to explore this with me or have something to add. I'd love to hear it. So thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
So same thing, if you are intrigued with that idea or if you know other people who are, please speak to Ella afterward. And there are other ideas that we're brewing. Some people are working on possibility of gathering, say, 20 middle schoolers together and having a life skill teaching and taking them to different places where they're exposed to different vocational options. So having like the Wednesday Explorers group for junior high students so that they can learn some of the academic skills but also life skills and be introduced to the bigger world so that they can make a better decision for their future. So there are many different ideas, and if anybody is interested in starting a walking group, it's not going to cost us much, but like organizing people to walk together and build relationship, but also exercise together, a pickleball group, art classes, all these ideas are welcome. You know, as long as it will create synergy and it's doable here. So if you have ideas, please share with us. And also let me introduce those who are in think tank. If you can just rise to. Thank you. Appreciate for your work. But if you have ideas and if you're a little too shy about like writing it down, please speak to them, and we can generate ideas. So the whole vision is to be able to create a space where community can come together and seek healing, health, and joy, regardless of their religion. So if we can just picture that, and if we can provide a space, I think God will be very happy. There are other things that we can talk about, but I'm noticing that there's a snow coming, and some of us may be a little bit nervous about it. So we're gonna wrap it up. But before we do that, I just want to acknowledge all the people who will be serving in 2026. Council and the committees, if you can just rise, all the people who are listed in that nomination report. All the committees, council, thank you. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it. Marcy, Randy, did I miss anything?
One thing I should have added, I know a lot of people say resources, money. If you do something with money, as Pastor said, we can do it. We started in as much with $0. We got some donations. A grant came up, submission possibility from the conference. We were just granted $6,000 for 2026 for in as much. So
when we do what is good, people come and money follows. Let's trust that. And let's take a risk, but reasonable risks, so that we can, I don't want to serve the community at the expense, I don't want to serve large community at the expense of this community. My vision is by extending ourselves to the larger community that we will do better. And that's the whole thing about synergy, and I think that's where we're seeking to go. So let's bow our head and pray. Heavenly God, we would have been very grateful for being able to survive for yet another year. Because after COVID, things were very challenging. But to see what we have done for one another and for the larger community, and to see the chain, how each person has contributed to the chain, and then how that chain could be broken so easily, but somehow we stayed connected, working together. Our hearts are deeply grateful. Each person's here, and those who could not be here but who participated in this ministry, Nicole's ministry, and those who benefited from our ministry, each of them a precious child of yours, and we're deeply grateful for each one of them. And we thank you that we don't do any of these alone, but you surrounded us with the people who deeply care, who praise, and who will work with each other and walk with each other, even when it's not easy. Thank you. And we imagine, oh God, what we might say at the end of 2026. While our hearts are deeply grateful now, something tells us at the end of 2026, we might be overwhelmed in good ways. And we thank you. We thank you for the vision, and we thank you for the people who are willing to take risks. We thank you for the people who rein us back so that we can be practical. We thank you and thank you. And we thank you especially for Jesus, who leads us on our way and who picks us up when we fall, and who always reminds us that we are indeed loved. Thank you. And we pray all these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Can I ask you to turn to each other and just express your deep gratitude for walking this journey together?